Hello everybody. Give me one moment as usual. I accidentally knocked over my mic, so I hope it's still functioning. Music's a little loud. Let me turn it down a little bit. Let me know if it's too quiet. Let's see what we got here. That sounds fine to me. We'll give it 1 minute just to let everyone join in, and then we'll get started. Pretty similar plan this week to all of our other weeks. We're going to start off with the week in review for development progress. We'll get that set up now in the background. Then we'll shift over to the Canny board. A couple other notes about Canny that I will get to in a moment. And then we will wrap up with another feature building session as usual. So a week from today, that puts us at the 23rd. There we are. Good. Okay. Let's get to it, shall we? Welcome to the stream, those who are here. Welcome everyone watching the recording later on. As most of you know by now, my name is Cheese Doodle. I am a member of the TagPro Steering Committee and Development Team, which are the two groups tasked with planning, building, and announcing improvements to the game TagPro. And if you have no idea what's going on here and you don't know what TagPro is, you can find it at tagpro.gg. It is a free-to-play, online, multiplayer, capture the flag game. Short games of about 6 minutes, live 4v4, right in your browser. No sign-up required. So I have scrolled back a week. We're going to start off, like I said, dev updates, Canny stuff, and feature things, starting on the 23rd. So as I mentioned last week, we are approaching the next release. We've had a lot of things get merged in over the last week. So a lot of what I'm going through, again, is going to be overlap from stuff we've talked about in the past. A couple new things did pop up this week that'll be good to talk about. But again, if you're hearing a lot of things you've heard before, that's a good thing because it means we're getting closer to the release. Just a quick snapshot of where we are with the release status. I'm pulling up the list of things that we have planned for it. It's a larger release than I wanted it to be. I thought we were going to be able to get a smaller one out first and then do this, but we have 34 individual features / bugs, fixes, other things like that are going to be included. So far we have merged in all but 12 of those, and of those 12, 4 of them are ready for merge. They just haven't been merged yet. So we only have 8 things to go until we're actually done and we can get the release out. So we're definitely almost there. So a week ago, we started off by getting a review in for the live game indicator, which we've talked about is that little green arrow in the top left corner of your screen. So that is good to go, merged in. Then we've got a review that came in for the view stuff that I talked about. That's the most obvious to see on the maps page. If you go to the map voting page and you move the mouse around a little bit, you get that pop up where now it's not going to happen, of course. There it is. That pop-up right there is going to be fixed. And then the message that shows up in your console, you are running in development mode, that will also be going away on view pages. And all of this stuff should be cleaned up as well. So that's finally done and merged in. With that, we ended up expanding it a little bit because that branch did upgrade a lot of the code that we use, but we found that we could do even more to future-proof a lot of things. I think I've mentioned in the past something called ESLint. Just it runs through your code before you actually submit it to the actual database or repo, sorry, and I make sure that it's aligned with the standards of the rest of the code, so you don't have little weird bugs of like a character missing or things like that in the future. So we found a couple of improvements with that, mostly for responsiveness, making sure that page elements are valid and not out of order and things like that, which just makes sure that browsers can interpret what we want you to see correctly. So all that wrapped up, merged in, good to go. Then we finalized the overtime bug with launchers, which if you're in the launcher, you're going to see one of your teammates, if they have that question block next to their name and the timer gets all the way down to 0, sometimes the timer will flip-flop between the clock and player is in overtime. That was done and merged in. Then we've got another couple of cleanups on the post-game refactor, which is just making sure that the code that takes the ranked game when it ends takes everything that happened and then updates the server accordingly. All that is cleaned up so it's stronger for the future, so we don't have to keep debugging that as we go. More review. The new player indicator is done, ready for merge. I think I mentioned this last week, we landed on a leaf indicator, so we're only going to show on the scoreboard if a player is new with a little leaf indicator next to their name, and that leaf will be a little green leaf. And then if you play too many games or you are decided by the mod team to not actually be new, you'll just lose the leaf. So players who are new should more often than not have that, which should help with onboarding players, making sure you're being nice to people who don't know what's going on and things of that nature. But I've talked about that enough in the past, so I'll move on. I already talked about the map test committee fix, making sure that they are getting ranked map pick rates from the current season, not from the old season by accident. Then a couple of cleanups related to the profile graph, which I've talked about before, where on your profile we're going to have the, similar to TPM, that chart that shows where your skill score has been during the season. Just some cleanup for that, making sure it still works in between seasons and things like that. We have a new branch that came in that I haven't talked about before, which is related to private games, where if you have tips enabled, and most of you watching this probably don't, but if you have tips enabled and you play a private game, it will send a couple of messages at the end of that game about things that are only relevant for public games. And to give you an example, oh gosh, where'd it go? In private games, it will say this game has ended, a new game will start shortly. So that is something that's not true in private games. You're going to go back to group and nothing else will happen. So little things like that, we just cleaned it up so it's not quite as confusing. And the real goal there is to try to remove noise. You want messages to be relevant, to be accurate. If you have a lot of irrelevant messages, people are just going to stop reading them, which I can't fault them for. So some cleanup there. Then we've got more of the same I just talked about. Ranked head-to-head dates. That's the map test committee thing. Oh, this one's a big one actually. Casual probability standards. So we had a whole discussion, and I haven't talked about this before on stream. So if you are in a casual game, you'll probably notice that you start the game zoomed out, you're on a certain team, and then 6 seconds before the game actually begins, it will start to zoom in and you might switch teams onto the other side. It's doing that to try to make an even matchup. Similar to what Ranked does, it has a 60-40 check, so making sure that, if possible, it will take those 8 players and make a game that is within a 40 and 60% probability for either team. That system worked fine, there was no problem with it, but the issue that we had with it was more on the experience side of things. So for a new player, it's still good to balance teams to some degree, because you don't want those games where you join, it's a complete blowout, it ends in 30 seconds. No one's really having fun in that situation. But on the other side of it, you've increased the amount of work that it's going to take for certain players to win their games, which is not inherently a bad thing, but with casual, you're supposed to have casual matchmaking. If you're taking every matchup and you're making it as even as possible, you're going to have good matchups, but you're also going to make it a lot more work. You're going to have to focus if you want to win those games. And so we didn't remove the matchmaking. We want to keep that same kind of core element of reducing the amount of blowouts that you have in casual games, but we did want to allow for a little bit more variance, because there's also some unknown factors, like players are leaving for ranked games. Players might just disconnect because it's casual. AFK players. Maybe it starts 3v4 and the teams are a little weird. So even though we were trying to make a 40-60 matchup, those games weren't really always 40-60 matchups. So saying that we're making every game even and then still having uneven games, we're not really following a clear line of of thinking with that approach. So what we're going to do instead is keep the balancing at the start of the game, but we only do that if there is a lower than, I think it's 25% chance of either team to win. And so if the game starts out and there's a 25 or more % chance for one team to win, we're not going to rebalance the teams. We're not going to switch players around, because part of that other conversation was that players don't like being switched around. They like to see where they are. They get the spotlight. They know where they're going to spawn. It's not that it's the end of the world, but it's a bit jarring to keep switching around every time. So we're removing that when we can, but if the game shows based on the predictions that it is going to be a blowout, we will still balance those teams and pick any combination that's between 50 and 25% win rate for either team. So we should still be reducing all blowouts. There might be a couple more here and there just because 25% is pretty low, but because of the other uncertainties, it's not actually going to be happening. Like a 25% win rate team could still win the game if somebody's new to casual matchmaking and they're actually a very good player, like an old player who came back kind of thing. I talked about the AFKs and the levers and all that, so we'll see how it plays out. It's kind of hard to predict exactly how it will be, but that were a couple of complaints that we think are being addressed by that change. So we'll see in practice how that ends up looking. If you have any questions about that, obviously feel free to ask. Hey, Oddball. We found a bug. This was reported by Name333 related to ranked flares. This had to do with only tier 1 players. So if you were a player who is at the top of the leaderboard, you might have found that, and this is what Name reported to us, that they were at a 1-3 level for a very long time. Or sorry, they were at a 1-2 level for a very long time in neutral flag, I think it was. I might be mixing something up here. That's really funny. Did he stop playing at 333? What a goon. Okay. Sorry, off track. He was winning a lot of games, way more than the number of games he should have needed to actually win to earn the flare for tier 1-3, and he was not earning it. And we figured out that there was a sorting issue in the wins, so it was counting games in the wrong order and shutting down that count basically before it finished getting to his actual tier. So hand-waving answer is that we fixed it. You're going to get your flare when you expect to get your flare. And like I mentioned before, there is a better display on the way, still in progress, for how many wins you have left to earn a new flare. You've never seen that far down the board before. Well, that's because I'm down the board before. But as I've mentioned before on stream, we are adding in a feature to show the whole board to everybody whenever you want for all seasons. So you'll be able to click on a tier and go to the players in that tier. So we have something I've talked about before, which was the casual matchmaking messages. If you go into casual matchmaking over on the side here, it will show you plus whatever waiting or nobody waiting. That number was rarely accurate because it's just not counting the right it's not counting the right thing. It's not updated properly. We've just removed all of that logging, so it's not present. So if you want to see how many casual players that are online, you can just look at the top left where it has the different regions and the player counts for each in-game and in-queue. So those are still accurate. We're just removing the extra message down bottom. That message just got cheesed. I don't know what that means. Sorry, Fly. For ranked, we still keep the message down there because ranked, it is a little bit different. It's information that you cannot get from that count up top. Sorry, I can't show you, otherwise I'll get into a game by accident. With ranked, if you are in, say, North American queue for Capture the Flag, that count at the top will show all players in North America for Capture the Flag and Neutral Flag, and it will show players in all the tiers. So maybe if you're in tier 1, it's showing counts of players who are in tier 5. You're never going to get into games with those players. So the number at the bottom left corner that says you plus whatever waiting for ranked, that is only players you are eligible to be matched with. So that number is still worth it, but for casual, that number is not relevant, so we removed it. The feature that I mentioned last week about Capture the Flag and Neutral Flag randomization in groups is ready to go. It just has to get merged down. So that went through review and testing. And it's also going to work in the presets. So if you wanted to make a group preset to play any random Capture the Flag map on the groups page, you would be able to do that starting in the next release. So just to show you, instead of showing random here, it's random and CTF random and NF random are all options on that dropdown. And we've got final stuff about view. Ranked win requirements that I just talked about, still in progress. we finalized the thing I spent a lot of time talking about a couple weeks ago with the end of game redirecting to make sure that players in their ranked games are sent back to the joiner at the expected time and are still, like, the joiner expects them to come back. It does not think that they're leaving the queue, so that when you're waiting for somebody, that person will probably be in your next game instead of waiting for them and then going to a game without them. So why did you wait if you're not going to be with them? So that's all cleaned up, ready to go. Then we've got, oh, a big one. This is very exciting. If you were following the bug reports channel, and it's okay if you don't, we had a report come in a long time ago, actually, a couple of years ago, with, well, let me back up. More recently, about a year ago, we had a report that there were some visual effects or artifacts that were showing up when spectating on a delay. We couldn't really figure out what it was. We kind of tabled that because we looked into it, didn't find any answers, and that was that. It came up again a couple of days ago, and we found a way to reproduce that issue, specifically with power-ups. And it was not reproducible on all browsers. We were finding it was happening on Chrome most often, not really on Firefox. And what it looks like is you join a game as a delayed spectator, and a power-up is there, but as soon as that power-up is grabbed, the indicator switches to the next power-up, but it still shows what the original power-up was underneath it. So it looked like two power-ups stacked one on top of the other with their respawn indicators. Developers were not getting this to happen to them because developers are not watching on a delay. Developers watch live just because of some back-end stuff that needs to be cleaned up. But that's why we didn't really notice it until players reported it to us. But then when we got reports, we could reproduce it. We looked into it, and we found a solution to it, we think. The solution is working for us in all the testing that we have done. What we didn't realize is that when we fixed it, it might have also fixed a very, very old bug report. So if you will recall, for a very, very long time in TagPro, if you join a game at the same frame that somebody grabs a flag or takes a boost, that flag or boost might show as the wrong state for the rest of your game. The easy example is you see a flag carrier holding a flag, but it still looks like the flag is in base, but if you roll over that flag tile, you don't pick up a flag because that flag's not actually there. So that bug might have been fixed by the same thing that we found to fix this power-up issue. I can't guarantee it because we have no real way of testing it because it's such a niche thing, but I'm pretty sure that it's related. And the thing that we fixed, it was related to when the server sends you an update and when your client, your computer decides that it has everything that it needs to actually render what you're seeing. And the ordering of those things, the server sending updates, when it was sending updates, it was not waiting for the client to render everything that's in front of you. So it was sending you an update. The client was getting that update and saying, oh, that's what this tile needs to be, and plugging it in. And then after that was happening, the client was rendering everything on top of it. So that tile was being drawn twice instead of just being drawn the first time and then updated by the server the way that you would expect it to. So it showed up a lot more with delayed spectate because delayed spectate involves sending a lot more updates right when you join, but it's the same mechanism that sends update when you're joining on a game not delayed or as a spectator not delayed and getting that flag issue. So I'm really excited to see if that changes. It's kind of hard to rule it out because you can't prove that it's not happening as much as you can prove something is happening, but we'll see how it goes in the next release. I'm really excited to see if that's a solution because that bug was initially reported back in like 2018 or something. I guess this is a long-standing issue, maybe longer than that. So we'll see, but very, very excited to have that at least partially fixed, if nothing else. After that, we have a fix to the player search tab. If you go to the player search tab and you look up somebody who has random flare selected, so just to put that up over here, I have random selected. If you search my name, there will be no flare displayed next to my name, but you can see players who do have a flare. That flare shows up, but random flares also, who the heck is this? But random flares, they don't show up. Now the random flare players will have a flare next to their name. That was started and merged in pretty quickly as a small fix. Then we have a fix to the tier expansion and contraction. So you'll see over here in ranked, we have an expansion scheduled. Bringing your bug squashing average timeline way down. Yeah. So expansion scheduled means that we have more players than we had previously to the extent that we are comfortable creating a new tier. If you're not familiar with tiers, that's what these are over here. You can see in Capture the Flag Season 1, we currently have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tiers. So an expansion is scheduled for, I think, neutral flag right now, which means that neutral flag has enough players to go from 4 tiers to 5 tiers. We schedule that so that players aren't caught off guard by going down a tier because that new tier has to get filled with players. But what we're finding is that the activity calculations, which require 10 games per week to stay active, we're kind of flip-flopping on the expansion. So we were scheduling expansions and then canceling them over and over again. So you've seen this expansion before with Capture the Flag, is it actually popped up 6 or 7 times before it actually held and got the expansion to happen. That wasn't a great system because having that notification and then losing it over and over is kind of confusing for players. So what we're going to do now is, instead of checking every day to see if we have enough players, we're creating a rolling average, which is pretty straightforward. You just look at the number of players you've had over an X time period so that any daily fluctuations aren't canceling or scheduling an expansion. So it should just be a little bit more stable. We're only going to have that notification for 3 days now instead of 5 days, because now with the 3-day change, we are guaranteeing it's going to expand. So we're not just saying in 5 days it might expand. We're saying in 3 days it's definitely going to expand. So less uncertainty, more results. And that's not quite merged in yet, but it's almost done. I just put a review in for that last night. So that brings us to today, with the other thing that we talked about that we're about to switch over to being the Canny board. So for those who have been watching in, you'll remember that I have said that Canny started to yoink our free trial away. So we, as of January 30th, which you'll notice is today, we are going to lose access to the back end of Canny. So the front end of Canny, luckily, will still stay intact. So you can still go to the feedback tab, you can still submit feature requests, bug reports, all of that will still work exactly the same as it has worked in the past. You can still upvote things, you can still comment on things, but I and the development team will lose the ability to come here and update those things as in progress or under review or anything like that. So sad, obviously, but the good news is we had a meeting last night and we have a new alternative sort of to Canny on the way that we are building ourselves. So it's going to be in-house. We don't have to rely on any external things. It's using something called Clear Flask, if you're familiar with it, which is way more powerful than what we need it to be doing, but we found a pretty straightforward way to get it set up. So we're going to be testing that over the next couple of days. The timeline is probably a month to get that up and running for real, but it's a much cheaper option to do what we want to do. So Canny was offering us to keep this board intact for $156 a month for what we're currently doing, which is a little out of our budget. We have found a way to do it for about $5 a month ourselves. So we're pretty happy with that alternative. So hopefully that will be a quick thing for us, but I'll keep you updated. So what that means for the Canny board though, I will still try to go in and still review all of the requests that are done weekly, but I will be doing it via the feedback tab, sorting this by new, and I can still hopefully come in and comment on whatever we're thinking of doing. It's just going to be as me instead of as TagPro Future Group on the back end. And obviously no tag will be added. So you won't see these planned or in progress or anything like that until we get it fixed. But hopefully just a short-term problem and no data will be lost. It's just the important part. We were able to export everything in this board. So that is the last of our development progress. Unless Oddball wants me to talk about the bots, because those are coming along nicely as far as I can tell. But hopefully more updates on those in the future. So, Canny board. Starting off, we've got Homic in the chat. For those of you who have not heard about Homic, you should check out his stream/tournament going on, Frozen Balls. Homic, feel free to drop a link if you want to. He's got a whole bunch of new players earning TagPro for the first time. It's a very fun thing to keep track of. I think they only have a couple of games done so far, but the next game is on Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. So, it will be censored. Is it going to be? Well, send me the link on Discord and I can send it. I don't know. The chat filter's been messing with me. But Homic, the reason I'm mentioning him is because this request is actually from Homic. It came in right off the bat. So I want to talk about that and then get into the rest of the requests from the last week. So Homic was asking about the TagPro netcode. So just to put that in layman terms, he was talking about the updates that the server sends to the client. You are the client as a player. Trying to figure out if there was a way to cut down on the amount of data that TagPro needs to send in order for your game to know what to actually show you on your screen. I'm not going to read through word by word because it's a bit of a longer post here, but a couple of options involving reducing the number of characters that you're using, reducing repeated characters, things like that, and then also talking about WebSockets and web transfer. So Homic and I had a meeting about this just because it was interesting to talk about the ideas. And I did also talk with Bash about some of this. Nothing in these ideas is wrong. So if you're looking for information that is valid, totally read this on your own time on the feedback tab. The reason we could not implement this, and the reason I'm going to mark it as under review, because they're not bad ideas, but if you are familiar with tagpro.eu, as I'm sure most of you are, that is the site that we upload all of our games to. This is hosted by Ronding. And for those of you who have been following closely, you will notice that we have not been able to find Ronding for over a year. So the site still works. All the games that we send out are still uploaded to tagpro.eu, and they all work totally fine, but we have no ability to modify this. And this all relies on the same code that Homemake was talking about optimizing. So if we optimized all of this code in the way that was suggested, it would work really well for players, but we would lose all of tagpro.eu. So we can't really approach that just yet until we have an alternative ready, but you will remember from a couple of weeks ago, we did talk about the plans for building our own tagpro.eu. So that could put that back on the table in the future. Other considerations that I mentioned were TagPro Mobile would have to go through some pretty significant changes. And there was one other thing that I wanted to mention. Let me pull that up real quick. Oh, right. No, that was something else. I'll talk about that in a second. Where'd it go? Oh, man. I totally had a thing. Oh, user scripts. That was it. User scripts. If you have user scripts running, they would also have to go through some significant changes. So all the scripts that players running casual games would stop working entirely until they were updated. So those three things, kind of a bit of a barrier to getting that done, but later on could absolutely be on the table. Now, web transports were the more exciting of those two things in my personal opinion, because web transport is similar to, it's a different protocol for sending data. So for those who don't know how TagPro runs, we use something called TCP, which is basically just a way for two computers to talk to one another. The way TCP works, it's how browsers run, is that every time a server sends something to your computer, it has to wait for that thing to get there to send another one. Not quite like that. It has to send a certain number of things in a certain order for them to arrive in that same order. So if I send you 1, 2, 3, and you get 1, but you don't get 2, your computer will not acknowledge 3 until 2 arrives. So it's going to keep trying to send 2 until you get it, and then 3 will come through. So that's why sometimes you're playing a game and you might notice that it seems like it stutters for a bit and then it jumps ahead, because your computer was waiting for that number 2 before it could get 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So all of those numbers need to come in order with TCP. That's good for certain things where servers want to know they got all the information, so you know if you got 3, you also got 2, so you don't have to account for missing data. But for gaming, you would much rather miss whatever that update was and get more updates as you go. That is a protocol called UDP, and that is why consoles and other popular games like your first-person shooter games usually are running on UDP. So web transport, what it offers is the ability to run basically UDP on a browser for a game, which is great, but web transfer was not really supported until about, I think we decided 3 or 4 years ago, which is a pretty big deal. But it does not actually work with our infrastructure at the base level. So we use something called NGIX. I'm not going to get into it. NGINX, sorry. There might be a better way to call that thing. But what matters is that it's not compatible with web transport yet. So we would have to rewrite our servers to get this to actually talk to your computer, which is not impossible, but it is a barrier. So we're not going to approach that just yet, but it is something we want to consider in the future. So it was a lot of words. Hopefully some of that made sense. I'm just kind of scraping the edges of understanding it myself, but Bash gave a better explanation. And if you have questions about that, feel free to reach out to him. So ideas are not opposed. Unfortunately, there are barriers in our own infrastructure to implementing these at this time. Will be revisited as that changes. And now we're going to see if Candy explodes when I send this, because I think it's supposed to work today. Okay, it works today. I don't think that's going to work tomorrow. So I missed a bunch of chat here. Let's see if there's anything. Topic says, hi Cheese, wait, is there a way to download all of **J. I'm going to assume that's a tagpro.eu question. If so, you can just go to the help page and there should be a full rundown on how to get raw data access. That should give you the ability to download all of tagpro.eu. What else do we have here? It was a lovely convo, Homik. You're a fun guy. and not in the mushroom way. This is just how Toppy talks. Yeah, that's just how Toppy talks. So that's that. Then let's go to ranked spectators. I thought it would be interesting if we could see how many people are spectating during a ranked match. This is something I thought about as well. I'm wondering if we have a ticket for this already. So the request is basically, while you're in a game, is there a way to see how many people are spectating? So I've talked in the past about adding in spectator chat. I still want to do that, but that would be spectator to spectator chat. And so a feature like this is useful for more than just players. It might be nice if you're a spectator to know that somebody else is also watching that game so you can chat with them about it. We have a lot of tickets related to spectate. Let's see if I can find one that is indicators. Not seeing one. Default zoom, that's important too. I feel like it would be like an eye icon. Yeah, I don't think we have a ticket for this. Let's make one. So, new issue. We're gonna say display with a lowercase I. Display spectator counts to other. Well, let's see. Should it be to players and other spectators? Because I'm thinking about the delayed spectate. If you're in a game, anybody who's watching your game is connected at the same moment as you, but they are watching the game from 10 seconds ago. Does it matter to a player that there's a 10-second delay on those spectators? Probably not, because you're not interacting directly with them. They're just watching you a couple seconds later. Thanks, Misery. Your eyelid is twitching, Fly? Oh gosh. Hydrate. Oh, I can do that. I didn't realize I had a hydrate reward. Thank you. So, I think what I'm going to say is players and spectators can all see it, because I don't really see a downside to showing that number, even if it's a little bit inaccurate. Swap glasses? What is that? Okay. We'll go blue light glasses. It's not really my aesthetic, but it works. All right, the displayed spectator counts to other spectators and players, I think. To players and other spectators. And then we're going to say related to spectator chat. I'm going to link the other chat here. This is the spectator to spectator chat right here. Hashtag 623. Related to 623 could be done together while in a game, playing or spectating. Show an icon in the top left of the scoreboard, maybe? Where would you put this? I'm thinking, just go to replay here. If I'm in a game, I think somewhere around here would be like a good, would you put it here or would you put it here? I don't want it like too obvious, and we're going to be using this space for other things soon. Sorry, it's way zoomed out. I feel like, what do you guys think? Top left corner of the scoreboard, is that an okay place to put the, I do not want to know I'm being perceived. I feel like the scoreboard's a hidden enough place for that, right? I'm going to go with it until somebody says otherwise. Show an icon in the top left corner of the scoreboard with a number representing the number of spectators in that game. This can apply for public and private games, and delayed spectators do not need extra handling. They can be displayed in real time instead of updating the count on a 10-second delay, if that is easiest. I think path least resistance on that one, so no need to get technical with it. What other considerations would we need here? add an option to the optionally add profile setting to disable this so that Grant does not need to know he is being perceived. All right, we'll get that. Has the feature group considered adopting user scripts? Yes, we have. Usually if we're going to adopt it though, we integrate it. We don't have it as a separate thing. If you're familiar with the TagPro mobile app, Harry Kane does actually have a scripts section of the app, which is pretty cool. But we haven't had like a import script kind of thing for a long time. Lucky, actually, funny lore thing, Lucky added a feature back in like 2014 or 15, which was I think it was a public repository. I might be wrong about that. Basically, it was a system that allowed content creators to upload scripts, and then players could access those scripts directly in the site instead of having to have TamperMonkey using their browser to show whatever script they wanted it to be. That was a cool concept. In practice, it kind of broke all the time because every time the game was updated, it would just shatter all of those scripts, and there was no like easy way to update them for the content creators. So it didn't really go anywhere, and we removed it like 4 or 5 years ago just because it wasn't being used at all. So something like that could be cool to add back in the future, because I think what we get to after a certain point of customization, we could add in a profile setting for changing every little corner of the site, but it would be kind of cool to say here are supported community mod packs kind of thing, where we're not updating these regularly, but we at least make sure that they're not broken, and if they're not broken, anybody can pick through the ones that they like and have them live on their site, because once you get to a certain number of players, the things that each individual person wants it's too broad of a it's just too broad, you know. It's just too many things that people want that are so specific. Just giving people the option to customize that is better than trying to answer every single request to that level of detail. But stuff like this, obviously, it's fine. Sorry, I got on a tangent there. Hopefully that was relevant. Wasn't it so we could use scripts with scripts turned off in comp settings? That might have been it. Honestly, I don't really know what the reasoning was originally, but I'm pulling like way back in my brain here. Okay, anyway, add option to disable, good, and then relevant canny post is going to be ranked spectators. Let's see if I can find that. There, boom. And we're going to mark this as, this is an enhancement, and this is probably a low effort thing. You're just looking at the number of socket connections and sending it out to the client, so that's super quick. Boom, create, planned. Not that one. Where's my normal message? There we go. A note about that, I'm trying to remember if we have a ticket for it or not. People have been requesting a button to go back to the joiner while they're spectating. That is ready to go. I forget if that came up in one of our meetings. That's why I was saying I don't want an eye icon in the top left corner, because we're actually going to have a similar icon right up there, and that icon is going to mean go back to the joiner, but don't leave the queue. So you don't have to keep watching the game that you're watching, but you can keep your spot in line essentially. Maybe an option to make it display with FPS/ping. Like up here, maybe? Yeah, I worry kind of along Grant's line of thinking that's a little bit too obvious. I don't want players to like perseverate on the eyeball that's in the top left corner. So I think tucked away behind at least the escape key is a little bit better, but that could be something we change after some feedback once it's live. Cool for the Steam release. Have you guys had to manage server load with NLTV plus home crew playing? No, that hasn't been a problem at all. For the servers, I think I've shown you guys the dev view here. We've got 5 Chicago servers, and Helmut's running on Chicago. Each Chicago server has 3 slots, so he would need to have 15 concurrent games to even max out the servers that we have. And if you do that, you've got other regions as well. So no shots at Homic, but he'd need to get a lot more players before he could max out our server capacity for now. If you want to try to do it, go for it. I was talking to Homik about early COVID days when we had the Masters tournament running. And back in those days, we only had a Dallas server. And the Dallas, I think we had Dallas 1 and Dallas 2, and each one could hold like 4 games or something like that. And then the Masters tournament was a 32 team tournament, so we had 16 games going, and we just destroyed everything because they didn't have any max on the number of games each server could try to make. So the servers were trying to make all the games and just failing miserably. So we got lucky to upgrade Dallas for us after that, which was an accomplishment, I'd like to think. But yeah, not having any problems, and servers can scale pretty easily. If we wanted to increase that capacity, that is very doable for us now. We have a lot more control over that. You found Chicago getting full occasionally. If you are picking a specific Chicago fly, that will happen. So each individual server only has 3 slots. So right now, if you pick Chicago and you take that last slot, if somebody else tried to play only Chicago and not the Chicago region, they would also get stuck. And we have a ticket open to show you when you are waiting for a server to open up versus when you're actually just stuck in the joiner, because right now it's unintuitive. If you get stuck in the joiner, it looks like you're looking for a game, but it also looks like you could have crashed. It's not really clear which one happened. So we're going to be emitting out, hey, you picked a server that happens to be full, either pick a different server or wait for a game on that server to finish. So you know to go back to group, pick a different Chicago if you want to not wait to get on that one. So anyway, accessibility. Cannot play without mouse. Huh. Cannot report bug without mouse. Tab order does not include relevant objects. Huh. This is not a thing that I have thought about. Playing TagPro without a mouse. That seems like a problem though, so let's make a ticket for it. This reminds me, sometimes in ranked I get messages that's roughly game launching in 1 second. It goes on for like 30 seconds. That is a known thing. Yet that is related to the overtime bug that I mentioned that should be fixed for the next release. But if it keeps happening, obviously, please let me know after the release is live. But what was I about to do? Make a ticket for this. I don't really know how to summarize this though. Cannot report bug with it. So tab order does not include relevant objects. I think that's the crux of this issue here. So if you're on the home page, you want tab to be able to bring you to, oh gosh, play now. Wait. Okay, so it skips right from here down to here. So it skips over. So we need to include casual rank spectate in the options of things that are selected when you press tab. I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea how that works, but I will look into it. We'll see if we can make a ticket for it. So let us, did I already make it? Oh, there it is. Add spectate or casual ranked spectate options to, what did he call it? Tab list? Tab order does not include relevant objects. So we're just going to copy that on select page. On the select page, user should be able to press tab to select ranked casual spectate. Currently, the order skips from the tabs. Feedback is the last one. Replay, feedback, etc. down to the footer. Support. Code of conduct, etc. Okay. That's going to be I guess, bug, technically. It's a low effort bug, though, probably. And then we got a relevant candy request. A question, that's good. Accessibility, la la la, where? Is it bug reports? There we are. All right. One person hadn't picked the map, but they had a map icon, not a question block. Yeah, if they had just gotten back from their game grant, that bug would still happen, because what was happening over time, it changes the clock when you're actually going to launch. It does change, but we're not changing the display according to that change. So the back end thinks that one thing's happening, whereas your computer thinks another thing's happening. That's why the timing doesn't line up for that redirect. Kind of going way back in topic, but if the suggestions with UDP homing outline do get implemented down the line, what benefits could they bring? More stable network performance, lower latency overall. Yeah, it's performance. So I mentioned the thing you might see sometimes in TagPro is you're playing a game and then everything seems to freeze for a second, and then you jump forward a couple of tiles or a couple of frames. That is happening because your computer is waiting for a packet that didn't actually get there in the end, whereas with UDP, you might miss that update. So you might look like you're jumping forward a little bit, but you're jumping forward right away to that next packet. You're not waiting and then jumping forward. So it would result in lost information, but much faster catch up after that lost information. Basically no catch up at all, because it's just live. It's whenever the packet was sent out, you're still getting it at that time. The one concern that can sometimes happen with that, I mentioned the ordering, the 1, 2, 3 versus server sends 1, 2, 3. Your computer gets 1, it doesn't get 2. It waits for 2 before it goes to 3. So you get 1, 2, 3 in order. With UDP, you can get packets out of order. And that can be a problem if server sends 1, 2, 3 and you get 1, 3, 2, because now you're going to go forward and then backward. And I'm kind of hand waving a little bit here, but that is one thing you have to add consideration for, is the ordering of packets. Make sure that you ignore older packets if you've gotten a more recent one since then. So, but yeah, it should result in just less jumping around for players who have a lot of stuttering issues and things like that. Not all stuttering issues are TCP though. Some stuttering issues are rendering or FPS issues, because your computer is trying to refresh what you're seeing, but it's not lining up with when you're getting updates from the server. I'm not going to get into that detail right now, mostly because I don't really understand it that well, but it's a slightly different problem as well. Is that how the ghosting effect happens? I'm not sure what the ghosting effect is, Misery, sorry. Rollback netcode. I would need to look into what you mean by that, sorry. I'm not in this industry, so sometimes those terms kind of go over my head. Anyway, I'm gonna move on to this for a moment. Say this is planned. I'm gonna say that ranked queue visibility. I suggested an in-game ranked queue denotation several months back that I see as planned. I should find that to see what we're talking about. I would like to see in the casual versus ranked how many of the casual players currently playing or queued are awaiting ranked as well. Interesting. So he wants to know if a bunch of the players who are queued for casual or playing casual are also queued for ranked, versus just seeing how many players are queued for each one individually. I'm not sure that I really support that request. I don't know, anyone have thoughts on that before I make a decision there? I feel like it's hard to, like, how would you display that? Because sometimes players are queued for casual and ranked, but they have finish all games enabled, so they're not going to be leaving their casual games for ranked, but they are queued for both. And then you'd have players who are queued for ranked without that selected, who are going to leave casual games if a ranked game is ready. So I feel like it's too fluid, and I don't think that it really provides any useful information, right? If you see 15 players in ranked and 10 players in casual, it's fine. If you see 30 players in casual and 10 players in ranked, I feel like it's only really going to be relevant for what he wants it to be when the numbers are very close together. And if they're very close together, you probably are going to assume anyway that some of those casual are ranked. And I don't see the use case with this one. I'm going with a no, unless somebody wants to change my mind on this. Be nice, Bambi. Oh wait, Misery was mean first. Now you're good, Bambi. Misery, be nice. All right. This would be difficult to display in a meaningful way, I guess. issue to players who are playing with finish all games enabled. And the differences in tiers too. Some players, they might have been in casual for a very long time and they're also queued for ranked, but they're not going to be leaving for ranked anytime soon because they're in a tier that nobody else is online for right now. Maybe in tiers with fewer members online and unlikely to leave their casual games. The information would likely not be of any value while adding additional noise to the page. All right, rollback netcode is a modern high-performance networking technique this is AI, but not AI, especially in fighting games, provides a near instantaneous response to player inputs by predicting remote player actions. Okay, so that we sort of do a little bit already. So Box 2D is the physics system that we use, which is run in two places. It's run on the server, and the server is king. The server decides what's going on. So all the players send their updates to the server takes all those updates and decides what physics are going to happen. So for example, you roll into a bomb, you send the server that I pressed left and I want to go that way toward the bomb. The server gets that and says, okay, you pressed left, you're going to move this way that much. Oh, you touched that bomb. Okay, bomb is going to explode. I'm going to tell everybody that a bomb exploded and now that you're all moving in different directions. But your client at the same time knows that you pressed left, knows that you're about to hit that bomb. It does assume, unless it hears otherwise, that you're going to go left and you're going to hit that bomb. So we do have some of that to make up for the difference. That is why if you're playing a game and you lag out, you see all the players keep moving in the same direction until they hit a wall and they get stuck there, because that's your client saying, until I hear otherwise, this person's moving this way. So they keep moving that way, and the server is trying to send you updates and it can't get there because your internet has given out. So that is why your lag outs look the way that they do. So we do kind of do that already, but I don't know if we go into more detail later on. Let's see, it eliminates the lag freeze, only rolling back. Yeah, so that's exactly what we do. Yeah, so we do that. I think it's a pretty good system, honestly. It's been implemented from the very, very start. I think Lucky added that a couple months into the project, so. Yeah, what that really means for us though is that anytime you update physics, you have to update it twice because you update the server side code and the client side logic. So you have to make sure that both sides are getting the same updates. That was a big problem with ghost mode because we had to figure out how to share the masking that we use. It's not really important right now, but yes, we do that. So that's the end of our candy board stuff for now. One other thing I wanted to do, we're getting kind of up there on time, but because we're losing the candy board, I wanted to make sure that we update any tickets that have not been updated yet. Swap glasses. Oh gosh. See how many glasses I have. All right, we're going actual glasses. Whew. So I want to go through the milestone that we have coming up with all the features that were planned. Wow, these ones are actually prescription. It's really throwing me off. And I want to update the board so that people know that stuff's being worked on, even though we're losing the ability to update the candy board. So let me just pull up the list right now. It should just take a couple of minutes, and then we'll switch over to our feature building. A little teaser on the feature building, just to keep you guys here, is that we want to work on, what do you call these? Figuring out the name is part of the problem. Like missions or accomplishments or goals, challenges, I think is probably the word we're going to land on, to earn rewards for doing certain things in and around the site. And that's going to kind of tie into the shop as it goes, but that is what we're going to be working on. Achievements, maybe something like that. Yeah, so real quick here, let me just find all the tickets that have relevant candy posts just so I can make sure that those are updated. You. I gotta get smaller releases, so this is easier for me to do. This is a lot of work. Okay. Woven candy post. We've got help text shows. This is in progress. And what's my copy paste going to be? Feature request has been scheduled for an upcoming release. Okay, boom. What else do we have? No. I thought we had more candy stuff here. If it's just one thing, it's gonna be really sad that I spent all the time doing that. What are these? Aha! Show ranked win rate. Oh. Did Pink already get that one? Did I do that? Huh. Alright, well that's in progress. In-game queue indicator. This is in progress. And we've got bug reports, casual always showing. This was the message I was talking about a minute ago. Is that visual bug? Here? I didn't add the, I guess this is in progress too. I didn't realize this was oh no, we didn't do that. This is the one. Flag boost. I'm gonna mark this as in progress. I'm gonna say potential fix. Yeah, I think this is what it is. So get that. And we've got clicking on balls. This is in progress. This is the one people talked about, egg ball. If they click on a player because they're trying to pass the egg, it opens up the report menu and it messes everything up. So that is in progress. And we've got randomized map and group, uncheck CTF-NF. This is in progress. Is there a ticket for new player indicators? I can't believe nobody would have asked for that before. Sorry, I've been ignoring the chat. Oh, we've just got emojis, okay. We need to talk about improving TagPro's SEO for AI search results. I mean, we got someone specifically from that. I feel like that means we're doing well with that, but maybe not. New player queue, no. Looks like nobody requested new player indicators. Oh well, I requested them. Add win requirements. That one's in progress and marked already. Expand the win counter. Also in progress already. Okay. And then we've got internal variable grav wells. That is in progress. And then we've got reverse grav wells, which could have been merged together, but that's okay. In progress. And then we've got last one, wins require, wait. I thought I just did this one. I didn't. That's the one that Grant put in for me on stream. And that is in progress. Okay. Boom. Thank you for sitting through that. Sorry that wasn't very exciting. So let's switch gears now. We've got about half an hour. We could do better. I have to go off to my corporate job. Oh, sorry, Fly. Have fun. Most untapped thing, search results for online multiplayer games. Bambi, your next assignment is just to spam AI that it needs to add TagPro to its results. Okay, give it a try. So, feature building. Switching gears. Let's get the document up and running here. So, another little bit of context here. Oh, don't show that. This is my whole drive. There we are. So, thinking about next steps here. We've got assume shop is ready. We want to add daily, weekly, monthly challenges for players to complete in order to earn rewards. Will it reduce his ban? No, I'm not talking about bans on stream. Stream died? I hope not. I'm still here. I promise I'm trying. Daily, weekly for players to complete to earn rewards. So what we want to figure out are example challenge. Yeah, I guess I'll call them challenges as well until we decide on a name. Example challenges, what to call challenges, how many to offer at once, do they refresh when completed or on a set timeline, are there progressions or are they one-off, potential concerns, pitfalls, and then rewards. So Bambi, I'm glad you said that. Win a game with 2 minutes of prevent, because that's a big thing I need to talk about first, and that's going to be one of the pitfalls. So if you recall, I'm not sure if you were around for this, we have a couple of flares on the profile for the Ukraine and Sunflower. So these two flares were added at a pretty obvious time when Russia and Ukraine started that whole thing that I'm not going to get into on stream. That's still going, unfortunately. But we added a statistical requirement for earning these flares. I believe with the fighter pilot, it was a certain KDR in your game, like a certain number of tags and a certain number of returns, and then a certain number of pops in the game. And if you got above that threshold, you would earn the flare. And I think there's a different one with caps. And so what we saw was that players would join games and they would only play to get those stats. They wouldn't care about winning the game. They wouldn't care about what the teammates are doing. They would ignore everything else and they would try to get those stats so they could earn that flare. And my concern is that if we added in challenges that were statistical, like earn 2 minutes of prevent, we're going to see players sacrificing the integrity of the game in order to prioritize getting whatever that reward is. So a thought that I had is that instead of individual performances, why don't we just do simply team performances? And so for something like that, you'd say, okay, it doesn't matter how many caps you get, but maybe play in a game where your team earns 6 caps. So one concern I have there is, does that encourage collusion? Do both teams say, okay, we're not going to play the game until both teams have 5 caps and then we'll start to play for real? And then both teams get the 5 caps, both teams get the flare, and then it goes on. And I really, really, really do not want to have to add a system where we are manually reviewing games to decide if people cheesed their way through whatever challenge of the day there was. So does anybody have any initial thoughts about that? We're not talking about rewards just yet. We'll get there. But what can I do as a player to ensure more mods are active? You could apply to be a monitor or encourage other people to apply to be a monitor. Reward Venmo me $5. Win a game with 2 minutes of prevent. Yeah, so you're saying that you want to add extra add extra qualifiers. Game needs to end in a win. Now, this is an actual question now. Does get 5 caps and win the game still encourage both teams to start off with 5 caps, so that whoever ends up winning, they're guaranteed to get that flare or reward, whatever we decide it's going to be? Probably not a flare. Or is that just too much work? Like, you need all 4 players on both sides to buy into it. So I think that extra layer is probably enough to dissuade it. But if anyone disagrees, I would like to hear your thoughts on that. Encourage someone to go up to a vote to give up a cap, etc. Across games instead of 1 game achievement. I like it. So, using that line of thinking, Grant, let's say an example challenge would be, I'm going to word this poorly and then we'll refine it afterwards. Be on the winning team for 25 total caps. And that's just saying that you have to win enough games and be the winning team where you get 25 total caps for your team. Not you, just your teams are getting 25 total caps for games that you won. IMO, you're not going to get anything for a game-by-game basis. You have to make it just cumulative stats. Yes, I think I'm on board with that. With the 500 returns, though. Hello, Lady Lid. With the 500 returns, though, you still fall into that same trap of I'm only going to play for returns. So think about like the cynicals of the world, right? Where they sit in base and they get 25 returns and they refuse to play OD and they refuse to grab the flag and they refuse to go for power-ups because they're only sitting there and getting returns. They are getting returns. They are helping their team. They have good statistical performances, but they are very clearly not actually helping their team win the game. They're holding them back more than anything in that situation. So we need to make sure that players are not encouraged to play sub-optimally, I believe is the term they're using now, in order to earn these. It should be a thing that happens while you're playing naturally. Yeah, so just X wins is easy. And so if we say 500 returns in games you win, we need a better way to word that though. 500 returns on wins, by wins, via wins. Bambi, I'm not saying I think it's a concern. I'm saying it was a concern. This has happened already. It was a big problem when that went live. The mod team was in shambles because every other game somebody was not playing and people were getting mad. It was a whole thing. How challenging do you want these challenges? Yeah, I think that's the other question is how many do you offer at once and then what's the timeline on them? So I would say it's probably easy to have like 2 to 3 daily challenges and then 3 to 4 weekly challenges, just to throw a number out there. Like, how many things are you going to be trying to do? Because there are only so many things that we can offer. Like, I don't want it to be every single week it's get 200 returns. Okay, next week, get 200 returns. Next week, I don't want it to be the same challenges over and over. So the number that we offer is somewhat limited by the number of challenges we can think of to avoid repetition. And I think that is a case for progressions where you say, okay, it's a monthly challenge, but instead of just monthly challenge of earn 500 returns, it's a monthly challenge with 3 tiers. If you get to tier 1, you get 100 returns. You get to tier 2, you get 250 returns. You get to tier 3, you get 500 returns. So it's the same challenge 3 times, but it's all on the same count, and you get a larger reward for each like threshold that you pass. Is that something that would keep people motivated? Would they just say, that's too big a number, I don't care? I'm not really sure where people would land on that. How much are you putting behind the rewards? We got to talk about that. It's not going to be flares. It's going to be probably, because we're thinking about the shop, it's going to be ways to earn coins. Coins can be used to earn flares and other things in the future. Requires a win is more harassment of bad players, which I think is a negative effect. Yep, that's fair. where they say, hey, I got like 20 returns and we lost because of you, you suck. Like, why did you, like, I'm losing all my stats because of you kind of thing. You don't want that to become an angle players take. But at the same time, I think that that happens now to some degree, and the mods are hopefully on top of it. I try to be. And that's why I think the longer term rewards reduce that need. Because if it's a daily challenge, you're more likely to get mad about losing that one game where you got 20 returns compared to the monthly 500 returns where, okay, I missed that game. There are going to be a lot more games where I still have a chance to get there. I think that's an argument actually in favor of short-term challenges may increase blaming arguments over poor performance if stats towards challenges are win-based. You messed up my 20 return game. Matters more on a daily challenge than a monthly challenge. Well, Josh, yes, but in theory, if you are harassing people and then you are muted, you are not going to continue doing that in the future. The idea there is that you reduce the instance over time. It's still bad for the first one, yes. And hopefully, with the new player indicator that we have in the next release, you will know that player is new. You will not be taking your anger out on them. We are going to be a lot more aggressive. I'm saying this as a moderator, not as a dev. We are going to be a lot more aggressive with harassment directed at players who are marked as new over players who are marked as not new. Not that we're going to ignore harassment, but if you are telling somebody who is in their first couple of games, you suck, quit the game, you're going to lose your chat. That's a pretty easy line for us to draw. So hopefully that is received well enough, and part of that relies on making sure that those indicators are accurate so we don't have too many smurfs running around, but we'll be as on top of that as we can be. We'll see how it goes. It's kind of hard to predict how that plays out. So anyway, prevent and caps can never be bad. Prevent can definitely be bad. If you sit in base and play permanent anti, you're going to have a very high prevent, but you're not helping your team because you're not chasing. If you see a respawner, you should be leaving to go chase. If you're not doing that, you're getting more prevent, but you're not getting prevent while it's there, but the second the flag is back, because they capped, you're getting prevent right away. So that is still a negative stat sometimes. No, anti itself does not cause prevent, but you're always going to be in base when the other team caps or gets returned, so you're going to get more prevent even though you're not playing optimally. I know that because I play a lot of anti and I get a lot of prevent, but I'm not always doing the best thing. Hopefully that line is clear enough. But so where are we going here? Example challenges, blah, blah, blah. Also thinking about out-of-game things for a second. What things can you do that are not in the game that can still earn some sort of reward? I'm thinking about something like allow users to have more customization over their profile page. Oh, as like a reward? Yes, yeah, we'll get to that. That's streaming. Well, that's in-game. Well, we could say things like a linking Discord account when that becomes a feature. Could be a reward, could be a challenge. Create a map, yeah. Create a map, or get a map accepted into rotation, to trial rotation. What other things do we want people doing that are good? Invite a new player would take some back-end work. Play on mobile, I like that. Stream for X minutes. Stream TagPro for X minutes. This could be challenges. Stinky cheese. Wait, what? Totation. Caps can be bad? What? Oh, like he wants to get all the caps, so he won't help other people get the caps. I see what you're saying, buddy. Yeah, okay. Oh, Voting on maps, for goodness sake. Vote. Vote on your maps. The MTC needs that feedback. Find the 404 page. Send people on scavenger hunts. That could be kind of fun. Scavenger hunts. I kind of like that idea, actually. It's a curious. Make a reserve name. The hub challenge lives on. Yeah. Now I'm hiding in the depths of the CSS code. Good luck finding that. What else? Play with like a different flare on. Play with X unique flares. Oh, someone had a suggestion the other day. I wrote this down. There's like a ship of thesis reward for finishing a game with a completely different team than you started. So like if all your players leave to play ranked and you finish the game out, you get a reward because, yeah, ship of thesis. Look it up. Okay. Team swap, MTC, play a mini game. Yep. Q. So Q specific. Mini game. Play mini games. Finish mini games. Mini game. X number of casual games. Ranked games, etc. Would you have private game rewards? Like, you could do like time trial stuff. If we add that feature later, not right now, obviously. When those are added. Ball Saget is here. Saget? I don't know. That guy. Ball. He was a big proponent. So it'd be like, get on top 5 in a time trial on an official map kind of thing. Yeah, I think just win X amount of games is an easy one. It's up there. Yeah, egg ball would be like, that's another so you could have private game options. Do you encourage private game like egg ball racing? You can do stuff like that. Get a good time in a racing map. Yeah, just like the time trials. Switch to the losing team. I like that one. In the final minute of the game or something like that. Play public games in a group with at least other people. Play X public games in a group with X other players. It's definitely a bad idea. Add prediction markets where you can invest and play. Oh God, no. We could do like the TPM betting thing, but I don't think I'm going to push for that right now. Oh, Oddball just said that. Sorry, stealing your credit. But yeah, we could. All right, other things here. Do they refresh when completed or in a set timeline? I think I lean toward. What do you guys think about that? I don't think I want players just constantly cycling through all of them because you would run out of options to offer people. So I think it would be a set timeline of refreshes. So players don't complete all of the challenges we could possibly think of all at once. For milestone-based stuff, set a timeline. Yep. Make a flare market? No, we are not making a flare market. This is not Counter-Strike or whatever the heck it is. Bambi gets to gold in 5 days. Yeah, you could do like an achieve certain tier in ranked. Achieve X win rate in casual. Nope, not going to do that. That's encouraging toxicity in casual. And this could be player specific where it's just move up a tier. Move up 1 tier so all players have a shot. Say GG at the end of your game. Kind of funny, honestly. And everyone's stat, like get one. Oh, community-based stats. That is an excellent idea, Bambi. Community challenge, where it's in all public games, earn X returns. And I think returns is a bad one because people would just start sacking repeatedly, but that kind of idea is a good one. Maybe like power-up grabs or something, because that's something both teams are going to want, both teams it counts for. So maybe grab like 30,000 power-ups in February kind of thing. Avoid stats that can be spammed, like returns. Players will just repeat flaccid. Yep. Imagining February 28th, everyone's just feeding each other caps. Yeah, that's, I don't want to do that. But pup hog, I'm worried about stuff like that, Beach, because if you do that, you're gonna have players blocking teammates off of power-ups to get them, and that is technically working against. Would that be activity based? If I leave for 2 years, would I have thousands of coins from global challenges? I think it would have to be only players who played, who contributed, get the reward. That's a good point though, Eyeball. Oh, team earns 50% plus power-ups. Yeah, team earns of power-ups in a game. I like that. Sit on button for X time. Pup sweep. Earn every pup in the game. I like that. And you could, that's an interesting note there. The percentage is an interesting idea because it's not cumulative, it's total. So it's like earn greater than 75% of returns in the game, win, and have more than like 20 or something like that. And that would be, there'd be no incentive for the other team. There'd be no incentive for the individual. They might be more incentivized to play grab D instead of playing prevent D, but that's not really suboptimal necessarily because they would still need to win. And that's better than cumulative though, because you don't get both sides spamming a thing, because one side needs to have that advantage, which would only come about naturally in a game. Oh, pup combos, I like that. Earn like a new power-up combo. Lawnmower. We've got rock and roll. We've got what is Superman? Thank you. What's all three of them together? Oh, TagPro. Kissing. Holy Trinity, thank you. It's a great name. All right. This other team sucks. Let me farm them for 4 minutes before we win. Like, I'm okay with that to some degree. I feel like you wouldn't want them to stop their own team from ending the game. But if you're just going to be like, okay, I'm going to go stay in the base for a little bit before I win the game, I feel like that's not really the end of the world. Crazy cap totals in casual. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff I'm worried about, Beach. X time within 5 pixels of a spike. That'd be like a spike maze kind of thing, maybe. All-time achievements. So yeah, that's a good point, Bambi. Some of these could be separated into lifetime achievements, which would be a different thing. Want reproducible things, not one-off permanent things. Achievements could be added in the future, for sure. But for now, probably not right off the bat. What else? If you said something and I ignored it, feel free to say it again because I probably just missed it. Kissing, FCs, TPs. I feel like capping off TagPro. Probably still negative. encourage that. Win in clutch time. You can't win in clutch time. Well, I guess you can win if the other team was in clutch time, but that's not. All that would do is encourage you to let the other team grab and give them a tying opportunity, which is bad. But I think capping in clutch time to send to overtime, that seems valid. Yeah, win in overtime after a clutch time cap to send to OT. Win in OT after a clutch time cap to send the game to OT. That's fine. Make sure casual has clutch time by then. Can you tell a cap size on the back end? What is a cap size? Not making awards because it would disrupt casual is misprioritizing? I need you to elaborate on that, Peach. Oh, that's called capsizing? I thought we just called it nubstepping. Capture in the 0.25 while an enemy player is also on the flag tile. Oh. Well, I think this is a cool one too. It's a nubstep. Right? You capture while there's, like, you get in there in the 0.25 before they actually pick it up. Grab and return in the same tick. Oh. Okay. Grab enemy flag and pop enemy FC just afterward in your 0.25 immunity period. Capsize. Got it. I think both of those are fun. I like both of those. A few scams in casual for the memes is fun. Beach, I don't disagree with the fun part of it. I do disagree with the a few part of it. I think this would be a more widespread issue than you might hope it to be. I'm not sure if you were here when I mentioned that the Ukraine flares that we added, that was a big problem for the mod team because players were only playing for stats to earn those flares. This is the kind of thing that once the challenges become more routine, like people are used to them existing, they're like a long time thing, I think we can loosen up a little bit on that. But initially, I think we need to be a little bit more restrained on that so that players get into a habit of still playing normally and then earning those things. I don't want players going out of their way from the very start because I think that just sets a bad precedent for the rest of it. And it also results in like increased moderation activity and people get mad at the mods. It's a bad dynamic that kind of stems from that. Whereas if we start more restrained and then we let off the gas a little bit, we let people kind of do a little bit more with it, I think the community will respond to that a little more in a healthy way than if we just kind of went free, open field, open season kind of from the start. That's my thought process. Anti's gifted a tier 1 sub. Thanks, Anti. Stay in contact with a TagPro for 3 seconds. That's really funny. With a TagPro for 3 sec without popping. That's really funny. I think, does anyone not know what that means? That makes sense to me, but I think I like it a lot. Switching to losing team X times. Yeah, I think we could do a cumulative switches as well. We have one for where'd it go? Switch to losing team. Cumulative switches also. How do I get rid of, oh gosh, get out of here. Ah! Why can't I? Okay, well, that's gonna be there now. We'll double tap rolling bomb flag carrier. Oh, cap with an active rolling bomb is good. Capture with active rolling bomb. Double tap rolling bomb FC, blow the RB and get the kill. I don't think we have a good way of measuring that right now, Grant, just because when you defuse a rolling bomb, you don't get any stats for that. It's just a defusal. There's no tag added to your profile. There's no pop added to them. There's nothing for us to actually track there. We could change that, obviously, but it wouldn't be an easy one right off the bat. $8? Jeez. That's wild. So I should have this over here. Not over here. All right. Stay in contact, TagPro. We got that. Double tap. Click the X when you hover over it. No, baby, I know that. I have a thing that runs and it makes everything dark because I don't like the light thing, but it's covering up the... Win a game each day for X number of days. That's a good point, yeah. Like streaks. Playing streaks. Play at least X games for X number of days. It's a very good one. Yes, Yappa, but it doesn't attribute it to any specific player when that changes. And that would be necessary to know who diffused it and then who gets the return. Listing off Steam achievements ideas instead of daily challenges at this point, which is okay. It's okay to have both, and then we kind of narrow down on what we're actually going to use. But, this is why you can't play competitive TagPro in an airport. Oh, God. If they have bomb in frame and then don't have one, isn't that a defuse? Yes, that is absolutely a thing. I'm just saying that if you're going to give somebody an achievement for diffusing and then also popping that same player, we don't mark the player who diffused the flag carrier in any way. So we don't know that somebody else didn't diffuse them. Maybe they ran into a spike and then you popped them. That's not going to read any differently than you diffusing them and then you popping them. Somebody mentioned buttons earlier. I don't like that, but I think the gate kills could be good. Pops earned indirectly via gate would be good. Curse you, Grant. Spike 100,000 times. That seems like a negative thing that we don't want to encourage. Oh, shoot. We crossed 90 minutes. Well, we have most of us back here. I'll hang out for I'll give it 2 or 3 more minutes. 2 or 3 more minutes. That's your 2-minute warning. What else do we have in group games? So encourage bad behavior in group games. You're just gonna get somebody set up on a custom map with a script that just holds left and it just keeps spiking them over and over. That's just gonna use up all our server space. That doesn't actually further the game at all. It's funny, but kill every other player on the team. Yes, pop the entire other team. TagPro or gate. Probably time-based. Pop the entire other team, because you don't have to do TagPro at all. You could do pop the whole of the team at all, and then if they all 4 of them flaccid, you still get the achievement. TagPro or gate or flaccids within what, 5 seconds? Cap and get returned in the same frame. That's a really good one. Capture and pop in the same frame. That happens in Capture the Flag too, right? No. Yes, yeah, I can, yeah. If you touch the flag tile at the same time as another player, and that player does not also touch the flag tile, because if it did, they would grab. So yeah, it can happen in both. NF and CTF. That's a good one. All right, this is definitely a good starting point. Other concerns here. Are we good with the name challenges? Use a portal. Click on the code of conduct link. We're back in the Steam achievements era, but I'll write it down anyway. Open code of conduct. Bambi, if you want to keep brainstorming, feel free to send me a list. This is not a final thing here. This is just kind of getting things started. So, I think I'm going to call it there for now. A reminder, a couple things I mentioned. We are losing the candy board, but you are still able to post to it. Just don't be sad if you stop seeing updates on the board there. Travel X number of tiles is awesome. Release is about a week away. I think I mentioned we have about 7 or 8 things that have to be finished and tested still. Look for a testing session definitely sometime next week. I think how that testing session goes will decide when the release ends up being in a week or a second week after that if things break. I didn't check the Future Group Friday questions this week. I don't think I got any. I just want to double check. But that form is still active. If you have any questions for me to answer on stream, I'll get to them next week. I'll just put the link in the chat here so you guys have it. And that is here. Any questions you have, that'll be in the comments section of the Discord discussion. What's the word I'm looking for? Description of the YouTube video as well. Feel free to enter that. And then, yeah, good enough for me. So I'm going to get out of here. But thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Appreciate the engagement this time around. This is a fun thing to brainstorm on. So if you have any more ideas, feel free to send those to me on Discord later on. But hope everyone's staying warm in the colds. Have a good weekend. Enjoy your Friday. And I will see you all later.